So next, we would like to talk about some of our initiatives rather in relation to ESG. So we would like to ask the three panelists to join us for the panel discussion for this part. NTT is very focused on ESG. We're putting a great deal of emphasis on ESG. And I'm sure as is evident, in relation to the question of governance, we have made improvements significantly. So I do hope that you will be able to share with you the current status of our initiatives and also what we intended to do going forward and the directionality of our actions. We hope that they will be clarified for your understanding during this panel discussion.
はい、それでは、
Thank you for your patience. So I would like to call forth the three panelists to our stage. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. Allow me to set the stage for this discussion. I would like to share with you some of the approaches that we have taken in relation to ESG. I'll be very brief in my presentation and hope to engage in discussion with the fellow panelists. So you're probably familiar. Socially responsible investment. There are a lot of indexes for SRI. And we are now part of these indexes. If we are to pursue ESG, as far as we're concerned, we felt that the Dow Jones Sustainability Index should be the benchmark. And we have been trying to improve the quality of our ESG through the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. Now, in 2013, or around 2013, based on this Dow Jones Sustainability Index, we've been trying to expand our ESG activities. So, first, it's important that we set forth the CSR charter. And also, it's important that if we're promoting CSR, should be understood. So, for example, in 2018, when we came out with the current mid-term management strategy plan, we talked about EV, 100% EV, so forth, doubling the energy efficiency, and also transforming to the usage of electrical vehicles. So these are all incorporated into the midterm plan. In April this year, NTT Anode Energy Company was established, so that will further accelerate the green power generation business. And also electrical vehicle charging business will now be expanded. So these are all reflected in our midterm plan. Also, in relation to disclosure, it's important that we disclose a lot of different numbers. So naturally, we set forth elements for the data processing. And we want to expand the number of items to be covered in the data processing. And it's important that we try to enrich and expand our information disclosure. And also for the group as a whole has hosted CSR conference. We've also provided award for CSR. So we're trying to elevate the overall quality of our ESG activities. So owing to these efforts, the score was 66 at this time, but it's now expanded to 84. And we were nominated for Asia Pacific. And last year, in 2018, we were also incorporated into the world. And this year, we were also nominated for the world category. There are 59 companies that are subject on a global basis. And 9 were actually nominated for the world category. So using DJSI as a benchmark, we've been trying to enhance and reinforce our ESG activities. Then what has happened to the score? So let's start with E, S, and G, and also the total category. For E, from 2013 toward 2019, by the way, this is the average for 2013, the overall average for 2013, and this the highest score for 2013. As for E, we have shown great growth. As for society or S, we have also shown growth in S. But unfortunately, G is still flat, has remained flat. So governance category has remained flat. But overall category, we have seen a pickup. And now we have been nominated for the world category.
ガバナンスがちょっと
But governance, I believe, represents an issue for us. But we were included in DJSI World in 2018 and 2019. So what are some of the challenges pertaining to governance? As far as we're concerned, we believe that these are the 7 issues that we face. That is our understanding. And over a year or so, what we have done is to try to take actions toward efforts related to issues. For example, outside board members, we increased this by 2 to 4. And also, diversifying executive positions, 2 females were nominated as board members. And also, NTT Holding Company, we're not able to have 4 nationals as directors. That's not possible under law. So NTT Incorporated, the intermediate global holding company, we have hired 3 or 4 nationals. And also, we are going to revise disclosed information and also effectiveness of the assessment of the board, that we are going to carry out questionnaire surveys. And also, we were going to have exchange of opinions with outside members of the board and audit supervisory board members. So have exchange of views without the executives. And also, with regard to performance-based compensation, KPI, based on medium-term targets were incorporated. And also succession plan was disclosed. And also in terms of the number of board members right now, inclusive of the auditors, we have 20. Inclusive of the members of the audited supervisory board. Is 20 an appropriate number? That's something that we need to consider as we make efforts to further reinforce our governance. So what would be the ideal structure? That is something that is under consideration at this moment. So much for that. So these are the efforts to intensify and reinforce our governance. So Ms. Ide-san, what are your thoughts about the efforts made so far? I know, though, it's somewhat perplexing asking members of the internal board to speak, but can you share with us your views? Well, I'm a member of the Audit and Supervisory Board, so let me comment about the Audit and Supervisory Board. So let's take a look at this chart. 2 females were nominated as board members. That was back in June this year. And inclusive of Misoka, there were females. And as for the Audit Supervisory Board, CPA, and outside members, a female member was hired. And also in 2014, I became the full-time Audit and Supervisory Board member on a full-time basis. I'm internally promoted, so 2 out of 5 are females. So I would say that although there are 20 members of the board and Audit Supervisory Board, 4 are now females. So that constitutes 20% of the total. So in terms of gender balance, I think we have made great strides. Now, as for the members of the Audit and Supervisory Board, not just gender, but when it comes to finance and legal and accounting, they require expertise in all different fields. So experts of the company law and lawyers and also CPAs, people with professionals. There are a lot of internal members with such professional expertise. So full-time members of the Audit Supervisory Board, they will provide the information to the outside members. And also, I believe this is something that takes place when we exchange views with the members of the board. But having female member, has that changed the activities of the Audit and Supervisory Board? Well, diversity and inclusion at NTT Group, we're trying to promote that. We're trying to respect diversity, and we're trying to respect differences and trying to reflect those differences in management. That effort is underway. But as a member of the Audit and Supervisory Board, we go to carry out audits into various OPCOs. In the past, we focused on the percentage of female managers were low, but that was not really on the agenda. But now, even without asking for female members of the Audit Supervisory Board to visit the sites, people actually on the receiving end of the audit actually proactively share those numbers. So audit activities from a different perspective, and also a perspective with regard to the execution by the executives, I believe that we'll be able to leverage diversity on.
In June this year, for the very first time,
we have this appointed the women director and Oka-san, please. Within the company, I think there are so many different decision-making processes, and diversity should be really embraced in all of these processes. And I personally have been working for the group companies and for the service development, and for the group subsidiary company, president position was really one of my responsibilities in the past. And we are to really listen to the customers and to really reflect the customers' voices on the decision making. And I think this is a very natural sort of the flow of events. And I think this applies to the board of directors meeting as well. And therefore, I think I am very happy to see this progress made. And on a personal note, I really do appreciate that. Now, moving on to the diversity and also the women empowerment and also the diverse HR and work style reforms. And firstly, in Global Gender Gap Index, and I'm sure you are very familiar with this. And in 2018, and the World Economic Forum has released this GGGI, and Japan was ranked 110th. And once it was ranked 80th, but the ranking is now really being becoming lower and lower. And then it has been the case where Japan has been in a low ranking country and the lowest among the group of 7 nations in GGI. And 4 main items, and the health and the 41st, and education 65th, and politics the very bad one, and 125th, and economy. And so what can we do? And I think we can really make contribution to the economy. And what about the status of NTT? Firstly, and the sub-items of the economy and income disparity. And here, we are really employing exactly the same remuneration system, so there is almost no gender gap in terms of salary. And in terms of the ages, women do have 2 years younger in terms of the average age. Now, the sub-item and the ratio of women and men in managerial positions, and here we do not have the good performance. Now, the Japanese were average and 12% in managerial positions, and in the total employees, 33% of the employees are women. Unfortunately, we do have 20% of the engineering society, science background people, and then overall, throughout the group, 17% of the employees are women in case of NTT, and 6% of women in managerial positions. So we do see this as a problem. And so in 2012, we came up with the plan to double the ratio of women managers. And I didn't include the target, I'm sorry, and that to really double this number or the ratio by 2020 and need 2.9%. And already in terms of number, in 2018, and we have 1,468%, representing 5.7%. And so we believe that we will be able to really achieve that by 2020. And furthermore, in 2025 or by 2025, and we would like to really achieve the 10% level, which is the sort of the national average. Now, the third, the ratio of the professionals and technical workers, and 9% is the national average, and then here we have 10%, and so we are on par with the national average. And so we are really actively trying to hire the women researchers, and in case of 2019 and hiring of the new graduates, 26% of them are women. So that's where we are now. And in order to really promote the diversity-based management, and this is going to be a major pillar of our corporate management, and that's how we have been trying to promote. And here, in view of the future management based upon diversity, and what would be the sort of the preferable or desirable progress going forward? Oka-san, please.
Well, thank you. Let's start with this page. The ratio of female researchers at NTT. When I first joined the company, it was back in 1988. I joined the research laboratory. I was a science engineer. I was a science major rather. I was in engineering. As for myself, I went through the training, the same training, the same work as other fellow colleagues at NTT Research Facility. I have written papers and also have publicized papers in various symposiums. So I believe I was treated equally in doing my job, and I was given various opportunities equally with other male colleagues. So I think it is true. So actively hiring female researchers, I hope that you can feel have a sense of comfort joining NTT because this is the reality. Now, there was talk about the doubling of the ratio of female managers in NTT Group. Having said that, when it comes to top managers, the percentage of top managers, of top female managers is not that high. For example, when you take a look at the upgoes, when you take at the manager level, and so when you take a look at the managerial levels in different upgoes, the percentage is low. So unless you upgrade this percentage in all these upgoes, then you will not be able to realize diversification at the point of decision making. It would still be a challenging exercise, in my opinion. Thank you, Ms. Ide. What are your thoughts? Well, as for myself, I joined NTT at the time when NTT was a public corporation back in 1977. NTT Public Corporation at that time was known as a company where it was very easy for women to work, a very women to friendly. For example, you had switching operators in the switching centers. So there's a history, and also parental leave was provided at NTT. Already back in 1968, more than 20 years before the national government introduced this parental leave system. So when I joined the company, that parental leave system was already available. Many female seniors were actually leveraging and utilizing the system. It was not just that the framework there was track record of people using that system. So therefore, for people who followed on, for females who followed their seniors, this was a very comforting fact. I was with the personal department around 1988. The economy was booming. There was shortage of people. And unless the company became a female-friendly environment, they will not be able to attract women. I think there's a cycle of boom of women empowerment. I've seen repetition of this cycle myself. But back then, there were a lot of people who wanted to do a interview. For example, the average years of service for NTT women, we were asked that question. It was actually, back then, it was already more than 20 years. That was the average annual service. Don't you mean the average age? They would, So NTT was a company where a very large number of women continued to work for a very long time, and this was supported by the system in place. As for myself, I took 1 year parental leave. I was able to continue with my job while raising my children, and so I was very grateful for that system. Now, what about now? When you think about it now, it's just having. I think a parental leave system alone would not suffice. The change in the work style has been quite dynamic. The change in technology has also been dynamic. So it's no longer that you have to. It's no longer the case that you don't have to stop the job. You have to be able to return to the job in a short time as possible. And also when it comes to sickness or when it comes to taking care of your parents and so forth, you need a system whereby you are able to make all these things compatible. So therefore, now the system has shifted to this new requirement, if you will. And also furthermore, just continuing on, just allowing women to continue to work would not suffice. They have to be able to develop their careers. They have to be able to take part in the decision-making process. So they need a career promotion. So I think it needs to be a third phase. So not just no longer having to quit, but also staying on a very long time, and also being able to take part in the decision-making process. I think this three-pronged strategy has progressed, but we need to do more. Thank you very much for that. For your reference. So 26% for the researchers. But what about the overall? Right now, it's about 33%. For group as a whole, it's 33% is the average. 45% is for non-engineering. So at the time that people are hired, 45% are actually women in the case of engineering. But in the case of science and engineering, the percentage of women hired is 25%. So I think we hit a ceiling. So if you add the engineering and non-engineering percentage, then the overall average will be 33%. So let's now go on to the another category, which is diverse human resources and work style reforms. We have made a lot of efforts. For example, we want to translate and turn non-regular employees into regular employees. We've done more than 40,000 in the past 8 years. And also when it comes to LGBT, what we have done is expand the system applicable to spouses to all partners. This was back in 2018. So the system was expanded. And people with disabilities, of course, the legal rate of employment of people with disabilities is 2.2%, is 2.43%. Foreign employees account for 40%, so 120,000 or 300,000 employees. And also efficiency improvement work style reform, so RPA. We are selling Win Actor, robotic process automation. So we have already introduced 15,000 robots, and also a stay-at-home remote work system. In fiscal 2018, the number is 27,000 employees. As for telework days, 109 companies took part. And also with regard to total working hours, it's 1,836 hours. It's now less than 2,000. But I think we need to do more to reduce the total working hours going forward. And also with regard to the percentage of usage of paid holidays, it's 51% the general average, but in our case it's 96.4%. 58% is the child care leave by male employees, 58%. So the national average is 6%. So we need diverse human resources. And also, it's important that through RPA and artificial intelligence, we need to realize operational efficiency. And as a result, we'll be able to realize work style reform and management reform, and thereby create a company where employees create innovation and have high levels of job satisfaction. That is the policy which we're following as a company. So therefore, diverse human resources and use of RPA and artificial intelligence, and realizing work style and management reform. But that has to be connected with innovation. That has to translate into innovation. So work style reform, and how that translates into innovation. Your thoughts? I would like to receive your comments. Thank you. Oka-san, please.
Well, diverse of human resources. And it's not just a matter of the individual background, but in case of the various life events, and then there could be different ways of working, and this could be quite possible. And several years ago, and my father, who was staying in the senior citizens home, and then all of a sudden he fell ill, and then because of this emergency administration, the hospitalization, I was really called and asked to really accompany him, and so I needed to leave the office early on, and so there was a system of really applicable to that. But when I really come back to the office, teleconferencing could be made available, and also various materials would be sent to me by my subordinates, and I am really going to provide the comments at a later date. And so by utilizing IT technology and to realize your own work style, and because we are the global IT company, and that is exactly what we really like to really focus on and promote. And nowadays we see more established environment, and so from this point in the year of here, we will be able to really take the benefits of the diverse human resources as well as the different types of work styles. Ide-san. And within the NTT Group, and the midterm management plan includes trying to really solve the societal issues, and so we really have to really be aware of the issues and challenges addressed by the society. And if you are really dating a similar type of the lifestyle, probably you may have read it in the newspaper, but you don't really see it very close to you. And so if you have all these the employees who are really faced with cognitive difficulties and nursing care for the elderly parents and also childcare and also those people with disabilities. And so if you find all these people in their workplaces or close by, then you will be able to be conscious of all these. And in terms of institution systems, we really have to ensure the flexibility, and that's what we have been achieving more and more. And so on a group-wide basis, we are really recommending various technologies to our customers, and so that would really enable people to really work in remote sites. And the remaining question would be the values, or because of the different backgrounds, and then people need to really enjoy the different work style and the management of the company. And immediately after, I assumed the managerial positions, and then, I often thought that, that employee really stays very late into the night at the office, and he or she is doing a good job. But it's not that we should be assessing or praise them just for these long hours, and so we have to really recognize the different work styles, and then the manager who has all these subordinates with different work styles, and how to really praise them and also assess them, and to really take advantage of these capabilities of different people. And you have to deliver the results. And how you can really deliver the results by really managing all these people. I think that is the sort of the challenge that we need to address going forward.
Thank you very much. Earlier, Jason Goodall, the CEO of NTT Limited, talked about this particular issue. He has already moved to London, but he used to be based in Johannesburg. He had a house there, and he was the CEO at that time. CFO was based in Frankfurt, and CTO was based in Australia, in Melbourne. And human resource top was based in Cape Town. And so there were despite the time difference, they worked together. I had seen that. So if we're going to be global as a company, I think we need a more global perspective and leverage IT in pursuing our job. So that was the impression I had quite a while back. So I think in a steadfast manner, we are going to go forward, I'm sure, and pursue work style reform. Under the banner of work style reform, I'm sure that here in Japan, things will begin to change here in Japan, and that's an effort which we wish to pursue. And I hope that ESG overall can be promoted further, if that is our wish. So, Hiroi-san, I turn back to you. Thank you very much.